Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Jess and in today's tutorial we are going to be making Tommy the Turtle. This is a really fun and easy pattern to make and would be such a great gift for anybody. This is going to be a two-part video. The first part's going to be the body and the shell, and the second part's going to be the fins and the face. So without further ado, let's get into it. So for supplies for this project, you're going to need two colors of yarn. So I'm going to be using this white yarn of Baby Snuggle from Hobby for the body, and then I'm going to be using this purple yarn for the shell. You can use whatever type of yarn you want. It also doesn't need to be chunky yarn. This is a size 6 yarn, but you can use a smaller yarn, just keeping in mind the smaller the yarn you use, the smaller your end result will be. To pair with this yarn, I'm going to be using this 5.5 millimeter crochet hook. We're also going to need a pair of scissors, a stitch marker, some fabric pins, a darning needle, and some fiber fill. Now, the stitches that you're going to need to know to complete this project is a magic ring, a single crochet, a slip stitch, an increase stitch, and a decrease stitch. If you're unsure of any of these stitches, we will link some tutorials in the description box below that you can watch before you complete this tutorial. So let's get started. Okay, so to begin our project, we are going to start with the head. Now for row 1 of the head, we are going to do a magic ring. So we're going to wrap the yarn around our 3 fingers, go under the front loop and over the back, pull up, turn your work, and yarn over, and that is going to create your magic ring. Then within the magic ring, we are going to make 8 single crochets. So insert your hook, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2. 8 times. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Once that's completed, we're going to pull our yarn end to close the round. So this is what we're looking like for our first row. Now this is where you would place your stitch marker. I personally, when I'm working in the round for anything, I usually like to use a scrap piece of yarn that's a smaller gauge, a smaller weight, and I just put it right in front of the stitch, in front of the last stitch from the last row, so that I know when my row begins and when my row ends. So moving on to row 2, we're going to place an increase stitch in every single stitch around, so 2 single crochets in each stitch around. Okay, so we're going to insert our hook, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, and pull through. Now we're going to go into that exact same stitch, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through. And we're going to do that all the way around, 2 single crochets in each stitch. And at the end of this row, we should have 16 stitches. And that is row 2 completed. Moving on to row 3, we are going to do 1 single crochet in the first stitch and an increase in the second stitch. So a single crochet in the first stitch and an increase, so 2 stitches in 1 in the next. Like that. Single crochet, increase. You're going to complete that all the way around, and at the end of this row, you should have 24 stitches. So I will meet you at the end of row 3 and we'll move on. Okay, that is row 3 complete. Now we are going to work into row 4. So we're going to place 1 single crochet in each stitch around for 24 stitches. So 1, 2, 3, 4, just like that all the way around. And there is row 4 complete. Now for row 5, we are going to do 2 single crochets. So single crochet, and an increase stitch. So 1 single crochet, 1 single crochet, and an increase stitch. So 2 stitches in 1. And we're going to do that all the way around for a total of 8 times. And our stitch count at the end of this row will be 32. So I will meet you at the other side of row 5. All right, and that is row 5 complete. Now for rows 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10, so 5 rows, we're going to place 1 single crochet around. So we have 32 stitches in the round right now. So 32 single crochets for rows 6 through 10. So just single crochet, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So just complete that all the way around for rows 6 through 10. I'm going to complete this off camera and I will meet you back here for row 11. Okay, so this is rows 6 through 10 completed. So now we're on to row 11. So for row 11, we are going to place 2 single crochets and then we're going to start to decrease our work. So we want to do a single crochet, so 1 single crochet and then a second single crochet in the next stitch. And then we want to do an invisible decrease. So we want to take the front loop of the next stitch and the front loop of the stitch after that. So you have the 2 loops on your hook from the stitches. Yarn over and pull through both of those loops. So you should have 2 loops on your hook. Yarn over and pull through both. And that's an invisible decrease. Then you're going to single crochet 2, 1, 2, and decrease. So front loop, pull through, yarn over and pull through. You're going to complete that all the way around for 8 times, and at the end of this row you should have 24 stitches. So I will meet you at the end of row 11. Okay, so that is row 11 complete. You'll notice that your round is getting a little bit smaller. Now for rows 12 and 13, we're going to place 1 single crochet in each stitch across. So we have 24 stitches in the round right now. So we're going to place 24 stitches, 24 single crochets all the way around for rows 12 and 13. Okay, so once we're completed rows 12 and 13, we're going to start stuffing our head before we get too small that we can't get any stuffing in there. So I just like to stuff my head. You don't want to overstuff it that your stuffy is really hard, but you also don't want it to be not stuffed enough that there's no shape to it. So what I like to do is I like to put a little bit of stuffing in, and then I like to just spread it out from the center out to the sides to make sure that all the edges are filled And then I'll just fill that little bit of middle that I kind of swept all that stuffing to. And there's going to be more opportunity to stuff, so if it's not exactly how you want it right now, that's totally fine. We can remove and add in before we are finished with the head. So once you have kind of where you want it to be for now for your stuffing, we're going to move on to rows 14. And for row 14, we're going to place a single crochet, and then we're going to do another decrease row. So we're going to place another decrease stitch. So under the first stitch, the first loop of the first stitch, and under the front loop of the second stitch, yarn over and pull through both. So you have 2 loops on your hook, yarn over and pull through both. Single crochet, and then a decrease stitch. So under the front loop and the second, pull through, yarn over, pull through. You're going to complete that 8 times around, and at the end of row 14 you should have 16 stitches. So I'll meet you at the end of row 14. All right, now that is row 14 completed. Now we are going to move on to row 15, and row 15 is just 16 single crochets. So 1 single crochet in each stitch around. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all the way around. Okay, now we're going to finish stuffing the head because after this row we're going to start working into the neck, and we're not going to stuff the neck. So just make this stuffing for your head exactly how you want it. Make sure you've added as much as you want to get the shape that you want, because once we move on to the neck it's going to be a lot more difficult to get stuffing in there. Make sure it's nice and round. There's no missing patches. Okay, and once you're happy with that, we will move on. So for row 16, we are going to place a a decrease stitch in each stitch around for a total of 8 decrease stitches. And at the end of this row, you should have 8 stitches. So decrease, and we're doing our invisible decrease. You could do crochet 2 together, but I find that you get larger spaces with that, and I just find the invisible decrease is just a lot cleaner. But you do what works best for you. And this is number 8. Now for rows 17, 18, and 19, we're going to place 1 single crochet around. We have 8 stitches around, so we're placing 8 single crochets for each of the next 3 rows. Now I will complete rows 17 through 19 off camera, and then I will meet you back here. All right, so that is the head and the little neck complete. And remember, we're not stuffing this neck. So basically what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to take my yarn. I'm going to remove my stitch marker. And I'm just going to make a slip stitch to this next stitch here and grab the yarn, pull through, take my scissors, and I will just cut a strand of yarn. And then I will just pull that through. And that is the head complete. Okay, so next we're going to work on the bottom of the shell. So we're going to take our color A yarn again, and again for row 1 we're going to start with a magic ring. And then within that magic ring, we are going to place 8 single crochets. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then we're going to close our magic ring. Sometimes with this yarn it's a little bit more difficult. And we're going to place our stitch marker. Now working into row 2, we're going to place an increase stitch in every single stitch around. So there's 8 stitches around, and we're going to place an increase stitch. So we're going to have a total of 16 stitches at the end of this row. Now I always find getting into this first stitch the hardest. I crochet quite tight, so it's my own doing. Here we go. So increase stitch, and then into the next stitch, 2 single crochets all the way around. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. And that is row 2. Now for row 3, we're going to place a single crochet and an increase stitch. So 2 stitches in 1 like we were doing in row 2. So single crochet and increase. Single crochet and increase all the way around. And at the end of this row, you should have 24 stitches. So I'll meet you at the other side. All right, for row 4, we're going to place 2 single crochets and an increase stitch. So single crochet, 1, 2, and increase stitch. 2 single crochets and an increase all the way around. And you should have 32 stitches at the end of this row. So I will meet you back here at the end of row 4 for row 5. All right, so that's row 4 completed. Now moving on to row 5, we're going to do 3 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, and an increase stitch. 1, 2, 3, and increase. And you're going to repeat this again 8 times around. And at the end of this row, you should have 40 stitches. 2, 3, increase. So I will meet you at the end of row 5. And that is row 5 complete. We just have one more row to do, and it is row 6. We're going to do 4 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, and an increase stitch. 1, 2, 3, 4, increase. And you're going to do that all the way around 8 times. And at the end of this row, you should have 48 stitches. So I will meet you at the end of row 6. Okay, and that is the bottom shell complete. Now I'll just remove my stitch marker and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to slip stitch to the next stitch here and pull through. And then you're going to want to cut a decent sized strand of yarn. The longer the better for sewing everything together at the end. So just cut my yarn and I'm just going to pull this through like this. And then I will set this to the side for now until we sew it all together. We're now going to be taking our color B yarn, whatever that is for you, and we're going to be working on the top of the shell now. So take your yarn that you're using for this part of the body, and we're going to make a magic ring for row 1 again. And we are going to place 8 single crochets into the center of the magic ring. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'm going to pull that tight for row 1 complete. Now for row 2, we're going to place an increase stitch in every stitch around for a total of 8 stitches. So at the end of row 2, you should have 16 stitches. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. And there is row 2 completed of the shell. All right, moving on to row 3, we're going to place a single crochet in the first stitch. And an increase in the next stitch. So 2 stitches in 1, single crochet, increase. And you're going to complete this 8 times for a total stitch count at the end of 24. And I will meet you at the other side of row 3. All right, now for row 4, we are going to place 1 single crochet in each stitch around. We have 24 stitches in this row, so we're doing 24 single crochets. So 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. And that is row 4 complete. Now for row 5, we're going to do 2 single crochets, 1, 2, and an increase stitch. So 2 stitches in one, 1, 2, increase. We're going to repeat this 8 times for a total stitch count at the end of 32. I will complete this row off camera and I will meet you back here for row 6. All right, that is row 5 complete. Now for row 6, we're going to place 1 single crochet in each stitch along, and we have 32 stitches, so we're going to place 32 single crochets for row 6. 3, 4, 5, 6, and I'll meet you at the end of row 32. All right, now for row 7, we're going to place 3 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, and we're going to place an increase stitch. 1, 2, 3, increase. We're going to do that all the way around 8 times, and your total stitch count at the end should be 40. And I will meet you at the end of row 7. All right, now for row 8, we're going to place 1 single crochet in each stitch along. We have 40 stitches, so we'll place 40 single crochets for row 8. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and I will meet you back here for row 9. Okay, now for row 9, we are going to do 4 single crochets. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and an increase stitch. 1, 2, 3, 4, and an increase stitch. You're going to complete this 8 times, and at the end of this row you should have 48 stitches. I will complete row 9 off camera, and then I will meet you back here for row 10. Okay, and that is row 9 completed. Now we have row 10 and a row 11 are both the same, and they're going to be single crochet 48 all the way around. So just 1 single crochet in each stitch around for both rows 10 and 11. So I will complete these rows off camera and I will be back here at the end of row 11. All right, so once we are done row 11 of the shell, what we're going to do now is we're going to attach the top shell that we made to the bottom shell that we made. Now we want to make sure that the good side is down on the bottom shell. So this is the bad side and this is the good side. You can tell because you can really see the rows on the good side and it just looks like a bunch of stitches on the back. So how we're going to do this is we're going to keep our yarn attached to the shell, and we're going to take our work from where we left off on the shell here, on the bottom of the shell. What we're going to do is we're going to insert our hook through the stitch in the purple, and then we're going to insert our hook in this stitch right before, so this would be kind of like the first stitch here. We're going to grab our yarn, pull through and pull through, and we're going to complete a single crochet. Now we're going to go into the next stitch in the purple, and we're going to grab this top stitch here in the white. Yarn over and pull through both sides. Yarn over and pull through to finish your single crochet. Into the purple, into the white, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through. And you're going to complete that with all the stitches. Now there's 48 stitches in each, so you should have enough stitches that it's even across the board. So you shouldn't have any missed stitches. So just insert under both the purple and the white, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through, all the way around. We're going to do this until we get to about 6 stitches left, because then we're going to sew on the head as well at the same time, just to decrease the amount that we actually have to sew. And this is kind of what the bottom is going to look like, and it's going to create that little ledge for the shell. So we will just continue along, making our single crochets, basically sewing these together with a single crochet. And I will meet you on the other side with 6 stitches left. All right, so this is what the bottom of our shell is looking like, and this is what the top's looking like. So I've just left 8 stitches, but you can leave however many, just enough to basically stuff the shell. So I'm going to take my fiber fill, and I'm just going to stuff the shell. Same rules apply for stuffing the shell, just want enough to keep the shape, but you want it to be a nice plush feeling still, so not too hard. Just like that. And this is the last time you can add stuffing to this shell, so just make sure it's exactly how you want it before we add the head and close it all up. So there is my shell stuffed with the hole for my head. All right, so once we have stuffed our turtle shell, now what we're going to do is we're going to finish closing this up until there's 4 remaining stitches on either side. So we want 1, 2, 3, 4, and we want 4 on the white side as well. And that's so that we can connect the neck. So we're just going to keep going around like we have been, making single crochets in each of these stitches around, in both the purple and the white, until there's 4 left. So I just have 1 more to do. So now I have 4 left, and that's how wide the neck is. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut my yarn. And I would just cut about 12 inches. That should be enough. And I'm just going to yarn over and pull through. Sometimes this yarn is hard because it just falls apart like that. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my head and I'm going to thread my purple yarn or my color B yarn through the darning needle. Now I'm going to put my head inside this hole here, and it should be the same amount of stitches. And basically what we're looking to do here is we want to put our darning needle through 1 stitch in the white, 1 row in the neck, which is basically going to be 2 stitches, and 1 stitch in the purple. And that's how we're going to attach the neck portion of the body. Now we're just going to work along like this, and in the white, and then here, there, into here. And then we're going to do one more into the white, like that. And this is kind of what we're looking like right now. And I know it kind of looks strange, but we will secure it up a little bit later. So once you have secured the neck onto the body and the shell, we're just going to, I just like to tie a little knot. So go under one stitch and then go through that again to form a knot, and then just bury your hook inside. And then we're going to also just put our white from the neck on here, and we're going to do the same thing with that. And then we're going to bury that yarn as well. We'll then just cut our yarn and just weave in your ends there. However you like to do that. And there we have the shell attached to our head. So next we're just going to secure the head up a little bit. So we're basically just going to secure the neck up so that the head isn't as floppy. So what we want to do is we want to just count 3 rows, and with white yarn and our darning needle, we want to insert our hook into the top of the 3rd row, like that. Pull that, and then we're going to go into row 3 of the shell. So we're just going to insert our hook parallel to where you inserted on the white, 3 rows from the bottom. We're going to push it through a few stitches so it sticks out after a few stitches, and we're going to just pull that through. Now we're going to go back into the neck, into the same row but different stitch, and then we're going to push that through to this where we entered over here. So this is what you're looking like. You just have like the 2 parallel lines. Now we're just going to pull these strands, and it's just going to bring the neck up a little bit. Make sure you have it tight enough, and I just like to create 2 knots. Like that. And then I'm just going to cut my yarn here so it's a little bit smaller. And then I just like to take a smaller sized hook and go in and grab my yarn ends, pull those through. And there is our head just brought up a tiny bit. And that is part 1 complete. Head over to part 2 for the fins and the face.